and I think that people that aren't patrons can actually like watch it on YouTube. I think that's how Travis had it. I don't know, because I know you can share where like you have guests that are actually in the hangout, like such as Austin
Yeah,
and
he
you and
just
Don.
he just said that when you watch it live for an hour and a half, it's not bad. But yeah, if you're watching like a regular YouTube video, in a way, it makes me think of how people use Twitch TV. So
Yeah,
like whenever they're coding, they'll just be coding and people can watch if they want to watch. So I mean that's kind of how I see it. Like people are just peering in more or less to see
right,
what we're doing, maybe not trying to pick up every little thing that we're trying to teach.
right. Yeah, yeah, and then if they want to follow through, they can later. But yeah, if anybody's gonna be following through today, cool. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be easy enough to follow along with. If you
I'm gonna
downloaded MAMP.
I'm gonna ask questions as we
Okay.
go through.
Yeah, and there's gonna be plenty of time to ask questions as well because like there's gonna be a part where like I'm spinning up a server and it says it takes 55 seconds, but it takes way longer than that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna ask questions just because I think it'd be helpful. Like I'm just gonna act like I don't know absolutely anything, and then you can try to answer those as best you can. Because even for me, like it's like even though I know what I'm doing, like for example, I think the other guy said like talked about Jade a couple weeks ago, and I don't feel like I answered his question really well, but at least it's out there, and it kind of maybe helps others that aren't here as well. So
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready, and we can go and get started.
yeah, let's get going. Should I introduce you?
Sure. Yeah, you've been the main guy.
The MC. I'm the MC. Okay, welcome everybody. This is the DevTips Patron Community Hangout, where we're kind of started this a month ago, where we wanted to kind of show what we've learned and to kind of give back in the way that Travis provides the videos to us and helps us learn. We're trying to do the same thing for the DevTips community in the small way of just showing different things. So what I did a couple weeks ago was how to use Gulp and Jade and Stylus. And this week we have Matt Morris, who's going to tell us how to set up a WordPress.org site. So now Matt will take it away. If you have any questions, use the group chat, and I will kind of moderate through this. I'm going to mute my microphone, but whenever anything comes up, I'm going to just, flag Matt, and he can do his best to answer the questions and kind of move things along. So thanks everyone for coming and everyone else that's on the broadcast. Thanks for being here, and we'll get started. Take it away, Matt. Did he leave us?
He must have.
Matt, where are you? Uh, just when I was going to. Oh, there he is. Well,
I hope
what?
that doesn't happen.
There's two of you. There's two of you. Okay.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen again. It kicked me off. It was like,
It did?
it said something. Yeah, it said
Okay,
something
well.
as soon as I screen shared.
Oh, that's.
All right,
All right. Take it away.
cool. Alrighty, well, let's get this off the screen here. So the first thing we're gonna talk about, I guess, just what WordPress is. So WordPress is sort of like it's a CMS, which content management system, and a framework that's kind of just jumbled all together, and it really helps you out with um, managing your content and everything. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna download the WordPress, um, I guess, file or application. So what you do is you simply go to WordPress.org. There is a WordPress.com, but we're not going to go to that. We're going to go to WordPress.org, and that's where we can go to download WordPress. And so what we'll do is we'll go here, download WordPress 4.3, and we're going to do it again, and it's going to download as well. And I actually already have one downloaded. Once it downloads, mine automatically unzips it, but I put mine on the desktop, so here it is. It's simply just named WordPress. And we're going to be using this later, so if you want to go ahead and open it up, you can if you're following along. But here are all the files that are inside of the WordPress folder that we've downloaded. And this is just basically what you need whenever you do set up your WordPress website. So after we have that downloaded, we also need to set up a local server. So we're going to be setting up WordPress on the local server at the first, and then we are going to move into setting it up on a remote server, such as DigitalOcean. That's what I'm going to be using today, but you can also use it on a GoDaddy server or HostGator or something like that. You can definitely be using DigitalOcean. So I already have MAMP downloaded. Now you can, if Windows, you can use XAMPP or WAMP, I believe is what it's called. And I think it's pretty much the same thing. But what we're going to do is go ahead and open up MAMP. So it just looks like a gray elephant. This is what it looks like here. MAMP actually stands for Macintosh Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So as you can see right up here in the top right-hand corner of the application, it says Apache server and MySQL server. And to start those servers, all you simply need to do is click Start Servers. And it's going to spin it up here pretty quick. And once it does spin it up, it's going to open up a website for me like that. Okay, and this is incredibly useful because it pulls it up for you, and what we want to do is hit Tools here, and we want to go to PHP MyAdmin, and what we're doing here is actually creating our database. You do need a database to have a WordPress website. If you don't have a database, it's not going to work because it is based off of that, and WordPress is actually used for mainly blogging and stuff like that. But so you can see here on the left-hand side of my screen here, I already have some databases that are made of DevTips one I was messing with. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new one. You can hit New over here, or you can hit Databases. I usually hit Databases, so we're going to go there. And right here where it says Create Database, we're going to enter a database name. Now, it could be anything, pretty much. I'm pretty sure you can't use any like special characters or anything like that, but just try to keep it pertinent to your project. So we're just going to call this DevTips WP, just short for WordPress, and we'll hit Create. And so, as you can tell, it made a database, and it's right over here. And this is your database. There's nothing inside of it because we just created it. There's no tables. There's nothing inside of here. If we go to one of these that are already installed, you've got tons of stuff, right? But as you start creating your website and building blogs and posts and things like that, it's going to fill up your database. But here's ours, and that's actually all that we need to do on PHP MyAdmin.
Matt,
Yeah.
I have a question. So what is being held in the database?
So your blog posts. So whenever we get to the actual like WordPress admin page, I'll kind of explain it as well there too. But when you have a WordPress site created, like I said, it's more for bloggers and things like that. You will create pages. And when these pages are created, they get set up in the database. And also whenever you create blog posts, so say you create a blog post like every day, just talking about what happened during the day, it's going to get stored inside here. And pretty much anything that you want to get stored inside of it, you can do that. I haven't gotten super deep into the database side of it, but let's see, try to find something. Oh, so for here, right here, this is a project that I'm working on, and you have your WP options, and this is actually a table here. And so these are all your tools that you can use. But here's your option IDs, which is option ID. You always need an ID in a table. It's sort of like a key so that every single entry is what do you call it? Unique. And so you can see here, this is actually part of my config file, which I'll talk about in a minute whenever I'm setting up the WordPress site. But it's storing every single thing that I need in here. So as you can tell, my URL, which is local, also my email, and it'll save my password and all that fun stuff, which isn't displayed here. But a database just stores information that's needed to pull from. I don't know if I answered your question. Did that make sense, kind of?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of, I guess, a little bit different than maybe what I've seen in like a Ruby on Rails database. This is actually storing like literally all the information in the site.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's basically just storing information. So, um, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And so yeah, this is all that we really need to do with phpMyAdmin. So we can exit out of that, and we're gonna keep this running. We're gonna come back to it here in a second. So let's minimize that. And what we want to do is go into our map application and go into the htdocs file. This is where our WordPress websites are actually stored. And the way I do this, it's one of the simplest ways, is I actually go to Preferences, and then I will go to Web Server right here in the top right corner. And then you can see here it says document root, and here's the file path that it takes. And you could do this yourself. You could go, open up a new Finder window or just a new window and go through and find everything. But this is like 3 clicks, and it takes you right to it. So as you can see, this over here on the left-hand side, these are all of my applications that are installed globally. And then I'm actually inside of the MAMP file or application, and we are in htdocs. Okay, so you can see here I have 2 projects that I'm working on, and what we're going to do is create another project. So we're going to right click and just create a new folder, maybe. I'm getting the spinning color wheel. There we go. Alright, so we're going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call this dev tips. And so as you can see, there's actually nothing inside it. Well, this is where we need to put WordPress files at. Okay, so what I do is I keep WordPress, the folder that I originally downloaded, I keep it in my documents folder, and then I just copy and paste everything over. So that's what I'm going to do here. Is I'm going to select everything and hit Command C or Control C if you're on a Windows, and then Command V or Control V, and it's going to paste everything over. And this is everything that you need for a WordPress website. Okay, so now what we've done is we've initialized the WordPress website. Okay, we have this file here, which is called wp-config sample. When you do first go into WordPress, just leave this stuff alone at first. But you start to get more advanced and more comfortable with it, you can actually take that away and create your own WordPress config.php file. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back over to Safari, not that one. Let's go ahead and pull this over here. And we're going to go to Safari. Can you guys see the Safari webpage?
Yeah, I can
Okay,
see.
cool. Cool. All right. So we're going to be on here, and we're going to click into our URL bar, and we're actually going to select all the way up here to our local host port. So my port is 8888. It might be different whenever XAMPP and WAMP is set up. And the way you can figure that out actually is if you go to your MAMP application, um, and you just go to Preferences and Ports. It's right here. It's your Apache port. So it's 8888, and all you need to type in is localhost colon 8888. Okay, and so what that's going to do is it's going to bring up that one folder. So what it's looking in right now is your htdocs folder. Remember when we were over here, we have our htdocs folder here, and here are our 3 projects, or well, the project we're working on and 2 other ones that I have. We have the same thing here. So if we click into dev tips, we're actually going to be put into the wizard, I guess, of WordPress. So it's going to ask you for your language, and I'm English. And then it's going to tell you a little bit about this. It's telling you what you need to know. And so what you need to know: the database name, database username, database password, host, and table prefix. The only thing that we really need to remember when we start one up is the database name. The password and username are both root when you first start one up. And then we're going to leave alone the prefix and the database host, because our host is going to be localhost. And table prefix, that's if we want to run more than one database, and we only have one, so there's no need for that. So we're going to hit Let's Go. And our database name was devtips-wp. Simple. And then we're going to change our username to root and our password to root. That's what it is when you first create it. And then after we do this, it's going to prompt you for your new username and your new password, and also your email. So after we have this, we're going to hit Submit. And it calls everybody Sparky, so don't be insulted. And then we're going to run the install. So what it's asking here is just some basic information, the name of your site, also, like I said, your new username and your new password, as well as your email. And then it's going to ask you about SEO, which I always have that clicked. So we're going to do a site title. I'm just devtips WP, something super simple. I'm going to do my name as the username, and you can make this up right here, the username and password. This is just like if you're creating a profile on Twitter or something. Pretty strong password, because this is what you're going to be using to get into your WordPress admin page. So you don't want just anybody to be able to get into it and just mess up your site, because once they have access to it, they can change the password and they can do anything they want to your site, and possibly change the password to your database and just totally mess it. Won't look good. So make sure that's pretty strong. But since we're on a local host here, it's not really going to matter. But if you are doing it remotely, I would definitely make that a strong password. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter my email here, and then you'll get an email that says, you've expressed and success. All right, so we're going to hit login, and so WordPress is up. So now, what this is here is with a local host, it's a little different than if you were signing into a remote server or something like that. Say, for instance, you had set up your domain and you set up WordPress and everything. What you would do is you would put in the domain /WP login, and then it would be to this page. So that way you can control your site and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and put my username in here as well and hit login. And one password needs to leave me alone. All right, so this is our WordPress dashboard. This is where we make all of our changes to our website. This is where we add posts, our media, just appearance, change the themes. This is where all the magic happens. There's not any coding that goes on in here. It's strictly just content. But we can actually change the theme and stuff like that. So just to kind of navigate through here a little bit, what we're going to do is just do posts. So we have one post that's already generated for us, and it's called Hello World. And if I go to our website, which you do that by simply just coming up here to the name of your website, and you can just click it, And this is our website. Now, your website will have this black bar whenever you're coming to it as a public person, but it'll be this bottom part. So you can see here, this is our first post, Hello World, that we just saw. Okay? So now, if we go back here to Dev Tips, it brings us back to our dashboard. We go back to Posts, Add New. We can just call this Test Post. Dev Tips is awesome. And Travis loves the color pink. Dismiss that. And then we can hit publish. Or you can save the draft if you don't want to publish it at that time. And then, as you can see up here, post published. And we can go back to our website and test post. Dev tips is awesome. Travis loves the color pink. So it's working great. And whenever I did insert that post, it did put it in our database. And if we went back to it, we could actually see that. Also, we can upload media. As you can see, we don't have any media right now, but we can select a file. It's just like being on Facebook or something like that. You just upload the media and then you use it. So I can go to my post again, create a new one, picture post at the beach. This trip was awesome. Add media, and if you go over to your media library, you can see all of your photos here. Insert it into the post, publish, and then it's published, and we can go back to our website, and bam, there it is. Now this is super basic stuff, and you could play with this all day long, but that's just kind of how you do posts and media. Also, you can make different pages. So if we go back to our website, we don't have any other pages. We just have our posts, comments, and whatnot. So if we go over here to our pages, we have a sample page. So this is kind of where your I'm sorry, did you say, madam?
Well, I was just going to say, you might be getting into this, but I was wondering how you get into the customization of the site.
How you get into what? I'm sorry?
Customizing on the
How do you get to the other end of the site?
yeah, how do you begin to customize it, like the back end using PHP? Did you get that?
Okay, yeah, I'll get into that definitely. The way you do, yeah, I got it. So the way you actually do that is you do go into your folder, your project folder here. It's in htdocs inside of MAMP or whatever program you're using. So we're going to go into our project, and we're going to go into WP content, and then themes. So you can see these three themes here, and I'll show you them on your admin page as well. If you go to Appearance and Themes, you have 2013, 2014, 2015. 2013, 2014, 2015. Okay? And if we create a new folder here, we can just call it Dev Tips Theme. And we do need to create a few files in here. I'm actually going to create it using my terminal. So let's see here, cd.net, applications. Normally I do this in add. I'm just gonna touch things. See, okay, so I'm in MAMP, cd htdocs, cd dev tips. All right, so now we're in here. We're going to touch index.php and touch a style.css. And I believe that's all actually for a scene. So now that I can go back over here to our admin page, um, you can see here that it's not there yet. We do need to refresh. And there it is, dev tips theme. Now, it's nothing because obviously. And so that's where you start with doing all your PHP and SAS and all that fun stuff. And there's a way to use PHP together, but I haven't really messed with it yet. So far, when you're doing PHP, you really just have to your vanilla HTML, if you will. So um, as far as PHP goes, I am still learning that stuff. So it's pretty crazy. Uh, from my understanding, it works a lot like um, like Jade includes and stuff like that too. So if you can get into PHP and start learning that, you can start theming, which is a great thing. But if you don't want to create your own theme and you don't want to use any of these three themes that are, pretty basic, you can actually install new ones. So if you go to Add New, you click that, and then Featured or search for theme people tell you about, and you can see these different things that other people have already developed. Now, I'm going to look exactly what these themes say they are going to look like. For instance, if I see, which one was I messing with earlier? I think it was this one here. And what my site's going to look like. So if I hit preview, it's going to take all of my content and put it actually inside of this theme. Or maybe not, it's just going to kind of look like it. So this is what it looks like. Obviously, in the picture here, I'm sure what happens is the pink, this color here, you can replace with photos, and so it looks a little bit cleaner, a little more crisp, a little more modern. But yeah, so you can do that. Let's go ahead and install it. So you just hit install, and it's going to take you here to your WordPress admin page, and it's downloading it. Or local server, so it's going to take a little longer than if we were on a remote server. Depending on how it's done, and we can actually live again or activate it, which is what I'm going to do. Just wants to slow down.
So
Cool.
in the
So blog, and we have our sample page.
question, Matt, can you hear me? You hear
Hear
me?
you.
Okay. So in the going back to when you created the folder for the new theme inside of index.php, you could just put HTML first. And then as you learn PHP, you kind of can put in PHP later on. Is that how that would work? So you could essentially create your
Well,
theme and then add what PHP functionality can give you.
right. Yeah. And it's, as far as I know, that you can definitely do that. It's a little sort of a backwards way of doing it, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it would work. You could kind of do everything HTML and then just erase the things that you know need to change the time you make a different block.
Or I guess you could put your styles in CSS. Oh, he left us. He's back. Matt.
Have you used WordPress, Adam?
No, I haven't. When I was first learning, I think I did something like this, but the guy was using, I think, Dreamweaver, and all I saw was like a bunch of files, and
Yeah.
it just seemed really complicated. But I like how here you can actually make your own from scratch. So I'm guessing that you can create all of your pages with WordPress, and then also you can just go into your styles and style your whole site. So you can set how you want your H1, your H2, H3, paragraphs, things like that. Can do all in your CSS, so you can essentially make your site the way that you want it from that standpoint. How about you, Don?
Yeah.
I have used it before. The I found the PHP end of it quite complicated. You were talking there, Adam, about going into that index PHP file, and from memory now it's quite a while since I used it, but from memory there's quite a few files go into a theme, and there's a sort of a, what would you say, kind of a template for building themes. Um, and I think what most people would actually do is they'd go and find a theme which they like and which sort of is near what they want, and then if you want to go in then with PHP and sort of hack the theme, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I saw in this video. What that guy was also doing.
Yeah,
So it's a little bit different than I guess you kind of have a starting point, which is kind of nice. As if you're not, a designer, I guess, then kind of gives you a head start, and you can just make little changes here and there.
yeah.
Mm. Okay, Matt, resume.
I mean, I think something weird happened
It's
there for a minute,
frozen.
but
Yeah, you went out on us, but you're back now.
cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I'm sorry about this. All right, is everything okay?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's pretty much the whole local server thing, and you can get into WordPress as much as you want to. And there's tons of plugins and just fun stuff like that. But it's a whole nother video. So what we're gonna do next is we're actually going to spin up a server, and we're gonna install WordPress that way. And pretty much everything that I've gone over as far as um, the file structure and all of the WordPress admin page stuff, it's all gonna be the same. Just the setup of doing an SSH key and a server is going to be a little different. So what we're going to do is we're going to do digitalocean.com, and I'm going to log in here because I already have an account.
So
And I was
DigitalOcean
already messing with it earlier.
is where you is the same as the map. This is where all your files are going to be.
No, DigitalOcean is just going to be a server. So a server is just a computer that's always connected to the internet, and I can serve files basically and pages. And what DigitalOcean is like it's if you get a website on HostGator and you have them host your site. That you can so just the disk space and everything.
So it's going to push everything out.
Yes, yeah, and so um, technically, whenever I spin up a machine, it's actually just going to be a machine. It's not going to do anything special. But whenever I do install like your lamp, mamp, XAMPP LAMP or something like that on it, then it's going to become a server. So then it can actually serve files. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of go through the process of creating a droplet or a machine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it dev tips because that's the theme here. And I'm going to do a one-click WordPress thing. It's a whole lot simpler, and if I went to the other route, it would be another hour and a half, 2 hours before I was done. So when you are creating a WordPress, the single-click WordPress site on DigitalOcean, you can actually choose this one here because you do need a gig RAM and gigs of hard disk space. $10 a month or $15 an hour. You can, or I'm sorry, 1.5 cents an hour. So you can spin a machine up for 3 hours and then just bring it back down. It's if you are familiar with AWS, Amazon Web Services, and it's kind of the same thing. Say you're and you can change this stuff too. You can change the size of the machine. You can do a whole lot of stuff. And as you can see, it gets up way up here. And so say you're expecting heavy traffic because there's an event going on and you're handing out business cards and there's a lot of ads that are out there for your website and you're expecting a ton of traffic within the next few hours. You can go over here at the 95 cents an hour, spin it up for 3 hours, and bam, you've spent $3 for a huge amount of traffic, and then traffic's going to go back down, and you can go back to whatever you need to. So it's pretty sweet. There's a lot of people that use Amazon that way, and DigitalOcean is just a little baby compared to Amazon, and they're the same exact thing. So that's what they're doing here. But I'm going to go select this one here. So we got 1 gig, 1 CPU, 30 gigs of solid-state drive disk, and 2 terabytes of transfer. And then you're going to select your region. So whatever's closest to you, it's probably going to default to that. Obviously, New York is closer to Virginia than Amsterdam or San Francisco is, so it's going to select that one for me. And then we're going to go to select image. Now, if you want to set up WordPress on your own and do LAMP and all that stuff on your own, you could just hit Ubuntu and do that. Or say you want to serve your website that you're not using WordPress with, you can hit Ubuntu, set up a server, and bam. But they also have these other things here. You have snapshots, which means if you already have a couple other machines, you can save snapshots. Say you have a bunch of WordPress websites that pretty much use the same thing. You could save one snapshot, and bam, you could use that one instead of having to set it up 50 times. And then you also have backups as well. But what I want to go into is applications here. So you can see here we have a lot of applications, and for instance we have LAMP right here. So you can actually set up LAMP and then put your files for your website on here, and then bam, there you go, you're good to go. But what we want to do is do WordPress. So we're going to select WordPress, and this is going to install Ubuntu, and it's also going to install WordPress for us, as well as LAMP. Stuff. And image, but we're going to. So.
You're breaking up a little bit. You broke up a little bit.
Oh no! What did you?
Everything after you clicked on WordPress.
Oh, okay. So after I clicked on WordPress, I just kind of was explaining that you have a lot of options, and you can pretty much select whatever you need that's good for your needs. And then I just kind of went through the process, and just you come to this page. Ubuntu is going to be what is selected, depending on your machine, and then you're going to hit Applications and hit WordPress. That's what we're going to use today. And then we're going to go ahead and come down here. They have private networking, backups, IPv6, and user data. If you need those, cool, but we're not going to use those today. And then what we're going to do here is add an SSH key. SSH keys are awesome, simply because They're highly secure. Nobody's going to brute force an SSH key, and if they do, they're amazing, and they really want something of yours. Also, they prevent you from having to enter your password every single time you log into this server. So, as you can see, I already have a couple SSH keys set up, but we're going to actually add a new one. So we're going to add SSH key, and this is where we are going to add our public SSH key. So in SSH keys, we have a pair. We have one that's .pub, which is a public key, and then we have one of them that doesn't have an extension on it, and that's our private key that we should not share with anybody, because if anybody has that, they can get to anything that has that public key. So we're going to put our public key here in our SSH content, and then we're going to add our SSH key. First, we need to actually generate an SSH key. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to cd into change my directory into my root folder. And then if I hit L here, well, you can see that I have an SSH folder. All right, so if you don't have an .ssh folder, and another way, I have a Z shell. If you're just using the terminal, you're going to hit ls-al, and that's going to show all of your files, no matter if they're hidden or not, if they're dot files or not. And that's going to do the same thing. All I have to do is hit L, and it does the same thing. And so I do have an SSH folder. If you do not, all you have to do is hit make directory.ssh, and bam, you've got an SSH folder. But since I already have one, I'm just going to go ahead and cd into it. And you can see I already have some public key or some keys in here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove both of these, and
You broke
entire tree, I guess. I can't remember. Oh,
you broke out for a while. You can start at
yeah. So what we're going to do is type ssh -t. I'm sorry.
well, I was just saying you broke out for a while. And where's your screen? What happened to your screen? Burger King Wi-Fi, man, it's not as good as it used to be.
Just find them. Switch
Yeah,
Turn
yeah,
off the Wi-Fi. Change the password.
yeah. He has to go in and buy a
Oh
Wi-Fi
man.
so he can get access. Matt,
Uh,
you with us, Matt? Oh, he keeps fading in and out. But but this was helpful as far as just looking at the Cloud Ocean, or the Ocean Cloud. I've never used that. I guess it's just like any other host.
Well, I was going to ask, actually, I've never used it either, and I was going to ask what the difference is between that and an ordinary host.
Well, I think from what I saw, like the example that he gave us was I think what's nice about it is the application feature. So if you're setting up a WordPress site, you can just click on that as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
maybe more steps that you would have to do to set it up on another host. So if it knows that you have a WordPress site, then it must know that you have a database and
Yeah.
where your information is. So then it's probably going to either configure the host so that it's more efficient at retrieving that information and serving it back to the user. That's my thinking. Because it's kind of like with Heroku, like when you set up it uses virtual machines to set stuff up so to make your just keeper. Yeah, like when using like Heroku to launch your Ruby on Rails application, which I mean that's what I'm familiar with. Um, and the so Heroku kind of is you create obviously your Ruby on Rails application on your local server. But then to get that database and all the information into the host and have it configured the right way, people use Heroku so that all the information is stored, the database is set up, everything is configured the way that it needs to be. It's just a simpler process. Now, I'm not familiar with the process of creating it entirely outside of Heroku, but that's why Heroku and maybe things like Ocean Cloud a little bit easier and more manageable for people to use because it does set up that configuration automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it. So Matt is back. Did you get a Whopper? Did you go inside and get a Whopper so that you can get Wi-Fi?
No,
So you
no,
can
I
get
didn't get a Whopper.
the Wi-Fi code? No? Okay.
No, I just man, this is annoying. It's all get out. This is annoying, and I really apologize.
So
This will go by so much better.
yeah, Don's
How many
asking a burger equals 30 minutes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One burger, 30 minutes, and then they cut you off. That's what they keep doing.
Yeah, and they start throttling your Wi-Fi access and
Yeah,
everything.
they're saying you can't just come in for water and get Wi-Fi access. That
What does the
doesn't
guy think he's doing on his computer for so long?
happen. Yeah, what is this? What is this guy in the parking lot doing?
Yeah, it's
All right, so you were trying to get your SSH key going, generated.
yeah,
You were going to generate one, and then you were going to connect your public key and put your public key into DigitalOcean, I think is where you were.
right. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get back here into our SSH folder, and we're going to generate our SSH key. So SSH dash keygen dash T, and the dash T stands for type, and we're going to do an SSH key, and I don't remember what the other type is, but I do know that this one is harder to hack. It uses a lot of algorithms and stuff like that, so it's a lot harder to actually brute force and um, get into it. So it's creating a key, and you can enter the file, which is save the key. But I'm already in my SSH file, so I don't need to actually do anything. I could create a different name for it, but I'm not going to because it just makes life a whole lot easier. Um, and so we're going to go ahead and hit enter, and you can enter a passphrase. I'm not really worried about that right now because I'm not going to keep this site up, or I'm not going to keep this um, droplet up. So that passphrase just makes it almost impossible for anybody to brute force your website. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter again, and then it creates an image. So once we have created the key, we're going to copy it, and the way we're going to do that is we're just going to go ahead and do this. We're going to use cat. So cat, and you can do the whole file thing, which is what I'm going to do just to make sure that I'm using the right one. And make sure that you put the .pub at the end. We do want to use the public key. We do not want to use a private key. So if we do .pub, it's going to show us the whole thing. And we want to copy all the contents of the SSH key. So when you hit cat, all the contents that are in there, you want to go ahead and highlight and copy. So once we've done that, we'll come back over here to DigitalOcean, back to the bottom where, I wonder why that redid it, but back to the bottom where we're going to add an SSH key. We're going to enter it there, and you can see it has my MacBook here, and I'm just going to call this MacBook RSA or something, and then add SSH key. I have to. Hey, quit talking to me. I want to do this. Let's do this here. Let's just go ahead and back everything out. Create the name. Add SSH key. Paste. Add SSH key. Yeah, well, let's hit. Oh, that's why I lost all of my Wi-Fi stuff. Let's go back and do this. Make sure our application is WordPress. Add our SSH key again.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah. There we go. Now it's added. So MacBook RSA. So what it does is it saves it for you. So when you create another droplet, you can actually just use the same exact one. So for instance, I have my Mac Mini here, and I could just click that one if I'm on my Mac Mini, and also get this one here. So then we'll create our droplet, and it's going to take forever. It says 60 seconds, but it's not going to be 60 seconds. So yeah. So do we have any questions about just, I guess, creating the droplet and everything?
Matt, I was asking earlier there, using these droplets on DigitalOcean, what's the difference between that and an ordinary host?
So DigitalOcean's droplets are individual machines. They're not going to be shared servers. They're not going to be throttled at all. So for instance, HostGator. You have HostGator that you can use. Those are shared servers, and basically what happens is there's a bunch of different servers, but here's yours, and you're put in there. You're just a file inside of the server, and then there could be 60 other files that are in that server that are 60 other people's websites. So say for instance, this wouldn't happen because Google has their own servers, but say for instance Google is one of those files. They're going to eat up all of that traffic. Every last bit of traffic is going to get eaten up by Google, and you're going to be suffering if people try to get to your website. It's going to be really slow, really laggy, and stuff like that. And so being on a shared server really kind of sucks. But if you have a small website, they're going to be smart about it and put it where they need to put it, to where everybody's website is not going to be lagging. But it could happen. So with DigitalOcean, you can control pretty much everything about it. So for instance, you saw that it had 2 terabytes of transfer data. That's how much data it can do before it starts to actually start lagging and everything. So if there's tons of people on there and they're doing two terabytes of transfer data, that's a lot. And it's gonna.
So basically, your a droplet is like a small server that you administer yourself. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so you can control everything about it, and but
Like for instance, you could go and update the PHP version without having to. All right.
yeah, every last bit of programs that are inside of it, you can update. You can keep it at the version that you want it to be at. And a cool thing about this too is that since you have full control over it, you can actually set up a Git file, and instead of doing FTP where you just push everything up into it. You can have a Git file, and you can log into this server, and you can pull everything from Git. Um, so what I've done is I've actually created. I have a website myself, and I've created it using this sort of format. And I created Git. Um, I put it up on GitHub, and then I cloned it down to my computer, so I can make changes on my computer. Make it look how I wanted it to, do all this fancy stuff, make sure it's working, and I don't have to have an internet connection. And then I can push it up to GitHub. Then I can log into my server, and I can do pull requests, and I can pull it onto on my server, and bam, my website's updated. Um,
Right.
so that's kind of an up thing for it. Yes.
And the only reason you would use Git in between the server and your local machine is to control versions, is that right?
Yeah.
Alright, I got you. Got you.
Yes, to do this on another host, you
In
can
case you really mess up on something, you're like, oh my god, I need to return it back to the other. I didn't mean to do that. That's what
pull it back.
Git is
I've
for.
never heard of that.
Mistakes.
Yeah. You can go back to if you mess something up and you're on there on your website, you notice something, oh, I better put it back, and then super easy, you just check out the older version. So
What happened to your upload? Where are you at now?
maybe good now. Yeah, it's good. It's good to
Okay.
go. I'll put this back up here. Cool. Desktop. Start screen share. And we'll come over here. Okay, so this is basically our admin page of our droplet of our server. So to actually get WordPress started, we do need to actually log into the server remotely using SSH. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use our IP address. So every time you create one, you get an IP address, and that's so that you can get into it. So we're going to take this IP address, and you can do console access, but you have to actually enter the password. And as it says here, it's the equivalent of plugging a monitor and a keyboard directly into your virtual server. So you can't actually have like an SSH key sort of thing going on. So you actually have to remember your password, which is kind of tricky and risky because people can guess your password. So here we're going to take our IP address, go into our terminal, and we go ahead and clear that. And then to simply get into it, we're going to hit SSH root, which is going to be the username that we have, and then @ IP address. So this is using Secure Shell to go to our server. And it's going to say this when you first start it up. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? And you say yes. It's adding it to the known hosts inside of your computer and also on the server. And bam. So all this fancy stuff here, it's just creating the WordPress website, the application, and now we are in our root folder of our server. So as you can see, there's nothing inside of it. I can hit LSAL, and there's a couple dot files with our bash files and everything. And we can actually CD back, and this is where all of our WordPress stuff is at. So if we CD into var, and then CD into www, we can see CD into HTML, and bam, there's all of our WordPress stuff. So then you can see here we have WordPress content. I don't know, it's probably hard to read because it's purple, but we can CD into our WP content, and there's all of our themes and plugins that we can go into. And as you can see, the 2013, 2014, and 2015 are all right here. And so those are the default themes. And we can make a theme and do all that fun stuff here, but that's a pain in the butt. And so, like I said, we would definitely use Git for something like this.
So DigitalOcean created all of this when it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, since we selected the WordPress application, it went ahead and created all of this. But it didn't do that until we logged into our server. So if I would have went to our server's IP address before we actually logged into the server, it would have given me a warning saying, you need to you need to log into your server before you blah blah blah, So now, if we want to go into our website, we can take the IP address, open up a new tab here, and just paste that into our nav bar, or URL bar, I don't, and then set up WordPress. Same thing going on here, except you skip the database thing because it's already created a database, it's already connected it, linked it, and everything for you. Um, and then if you do want to figure out how to get into your database and figure out what the password is, you can go into here and do all this stuff. Let's see.
So this site is live on that IP address?
Correct. Yeah, and so then all I'd need to do is actually connect the DNS server to the actual website, to the server. So we go to DNS right here, we can put in everything. So if we own a domain, we can put in our domain here, and then the IP address. Choose that, create that record, which that domain already exists, but because I've already got it set up. But that's basically how you do it. Do all these settings here. And awesome thing about DigitalOcean too is like they're great at doing tutorials. So say you have something that's going wrong, you could simply Google DigitalOcean question, and then it'll take you to whatever your question was, and they do great with that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, we can go back into this here. And then you could see our WP config file. That's where our database username and password is going to be. So if someone got into our database, like they could get into this config file and change everything. So we can actually I don't actually want to nano it. And here it is. So as you can tell, we have our database name, which is WordPress, database user, WordPress, and our password right there. So that's if you really wanted to find it out, but you don't have to. So we'll just get out of this here. And then we really don't need this anymore, but we can go back to our WordPress installation and just create our site title and all this fun stuff. They already create a password for you, but I'm just going to do this. This is like my stupid password that I choose for everything that I don't need. And then, yeah. I don't want to save that. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So bam, there we are. We're back up to WordPress and everything. And the cool thing about this, you probably noticed it, but in our old WordPress one that we had set up, there was a lot of updates that needed to be done. And that's because I just simply had an old version of WordPress, and I could have updated it if I want to. But what they do here is they actually pull the latest version of WordPress in whenever you log into the server for the first time, and everything's exactly the same at this point here. So yeah, that's pretty much how you set up WordPress on a remote server. So here is what I was talking about earlier as well. So if I go to the IP address, it's going to send us, let's go to a new thing here. That's weird. Why is it sending me there? I don't want to be the admin. But I'm sure if I went to incognito or something like that, I could go into here and put the IP address in, and it would just show this bottom part here. It wouldn't show this top black bar. But if
You need to log out, Matt.
I'm sorry.
I think you need to log out there as admin.
Yeah, that could actually be it. You're now logged out, and then just hit that. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So now we're just viewing the site. And if we want to create a post, we can go in here, paste in our IP address, and then WP admin, and it takes us to our dashboard where we're going to sign in, and bam, there we go. So technically, you guys right now, if you copied this IP address and entered my password and everything, you could do whatever you wanted to with this. So
Are you gonna leave it open or are you gonna close it?
I'll probably close it up. It costs money to keep it up, so
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, that pretty much concludes the whole entire thing. I'm so sorry about the internet connection and all the stupid stuff that went on. But I'll definitely work on getting that figured out.
America is falling apart.
It
America is
is.
falling apart.
We can't
And
get.
you know when the Wi-Fi is not working, that this is not how it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. Especially Burger King. Come on.
Doesn't work it's not like the old days, where everything was perfect and there were blue skies and the electricity never stopped and America's they're on a downward spiral.
Uh,
So, all right, cool, man. Thanks. That was I really liked that, just because it kind of took me back to looking at WordPress and how to set it up, and really how complicated I made it. I think in my mind,
yeah,
it really is a simple process. Even more so with DigitalOcean. Maybe the only thing that I have to like maybe get my notes on would be creating the SSH key because I don't do it all the time, but.
oh yeah, I don't do it all the time either, and like when I do need to do it, I'm always Googling it. So
Yeah.
I created an Evernote note on it just to know how to do it. So I can just
Yeah.
go back to that really quick and be like, oh okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was really helpful because there's still a lot of people that I have friends that use WordPress, and content management system. It's that's essentially the user interface that people that aren't coders will what they're comfortable with using. So
Yeah,
it's
and
helpful to then tell them to say, hey, let's maybe look at a WordPress.org theme. I can maybe help you customize it a little bit, but you can
right,
still be able to do the same things you would with WordPress.com.
right. Yeah, and I'll show you a cool website that's actually built with WordPress. Let me share my screen here. It's the company that I actually want to work for. They built this website, BlueMountainBrewery.com. So this is a plugin here that they actually created, and it's a brewery, so they have to make sure that you're 21, and then you just enter, and this is all created. So you've got this cool little thing here that just kind of slides. It's also a plugin, and I mean that's usually what they use is plugins and just little theming stuff. So for instance, like, you have all the what do you call them, fonts and the pictures and stuff like that. That's all going to be stuff that they have created and that they have coded. And then you can move into this stuff here, and this is also like photos and stuff that they've uploaded into the system, and then they put it in.
What's your interest in WordPress, Matt? Are you working with it, or are you working with PHP, or?
So I'm starting to work with WordPress. I'm not very interested in it, to be honest. But the company that I want to work for, they do know a lot of stuff that I want to know. Oh, I'm sorry, it's like really echoey and it's making me feel weird. um, so like I let's see. I want to work for them and everything, and they do know a lot of stuff. They do know a lot of PHP, but they do a lot of other projects that don't involve WordPress. They do a lot of Ruby development, and a lot of stuff like that. and I'm really interested in that stuff. But WordPress is kind of what they use to make small websites, or just kind of like their small clients, I guess. Like they have big clients that
Yeah.
they do big web applications with. They have big clients that they do huge websites with. But with smaller clients that aren't willing to pay as much, that really just want a website to be put out there and use WordPress. So
Because
that's kind of where my interest is.
yeah, because I think WordPress is a bit of an overkill for small sites, but as you say, you can turn them out quite quick.
Yeah, they actually have a pretty big, like kind of like a default file for themselves. They have it set up to where you can do it really quickly. They've actually showed it to me pretty quickly, so they can turn them around really quickly.
And plus, I mean, some clients want to have some control and be able to customize it a little bit themselves. So
Yeah, yeah.
not
And
everyone is a
they
developer.
also don't want to, have a, yeah, they don't want the customer to be bothering them, not necessarily bothering them, but I'm just going to say that just for time's sake, but they don't want the customer to be bothering them saying, oh, well, this thing's a little bit off, or this thing's, what you typed here, it's actually spelled wrong. Like, they actually build a WordPress website, teach them how to use WordPress, and then bam, here you go. If you need anything else, we'll go ahead and set up another contract or something like that, but that's kind of how they do it.
So you're wanting to get into Ruby on Rails?
Yes, I want to do it so bad.
Oh, so am I.
There's a really good stuff out there. The Rails tutorial.
Yeah.
You're echoing everything I say. But I'm gonna look up this link. Railstutorial.org. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I've actually looked that one up. That one's pretty cool. I have really been enjoying free code camps too.
Yeah, Free Code Camp. That's where it's at, man. They actually updated. They had a beta version, and they just updated to that newer version. So there's more exercises.
There's a lot. There's so much.
JavaScript. I think the project that I'm working on now, actually, I'm using CoffeeScript for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And I guess I'll announce it here, which is the next broadcast that we'll have. We will discuss how to create a simple API. So I'm thinking about which project to use, because I've done a random quote application, I've done a weather app application, and I'm currently working on twitch.tv API. But yeah, in a couple weeks we'll look at APIs, which again, when you first start, you're like, oh my god, it's an API, it's like, what is that? I don't even know. I'm scared. And you do, when you're learning on your own, you do fail a couple times going through it, but it's really interesting. I think it's really helpful. A lot of people, obviously, APIs are really, big for companies, because the information is, readily available out there. So why not use it to, enhance your website, or, pretty much, or just even, you'll also see how to use Ajax and how that pulls in, information to your site that you could use in another capacity, maybe not with an API, but maybe with other information or images, or because essentially you could create your site in a way that never has to reload. Could just be all Ajax requests. So then, in that sense, it makes it faster. Not saying like you have to do that, but it's another way of thinking about web development and what's out there and what's possible.
What are you going to be using to program the API, Adam?
No, I'm not creating the API, using the API.
All
So,
right.
so
Oh,
for like, so for example, when I used, when I created the weather app, how do you make a call request using jQuery to the forecast.io API so that you can retrieve that information, the data, and then funnel that data onto your web.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be creating on a very simple level. I don't even think we're going to like get into like any styles or anything. We're just going to get into, okay, how do we get the data, retrieve the data, and then put the data onto my web page.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we'll cover then. It's pretty interesting. I guess it's pretty basic, but when you're first learning these things, nothing's basic. The basic is not basic, not even close to basic. So it's just, but it's helpful because in
Are
free code
you
camp,
are
they
you a Rails developer?
me?
Yeah.
No, I'm just still just learning. But I've done Rails projects. So like there's a guy on YouTube, Mackenzie Child,
Yes.
and he has the website Unicast. So I've
Mm-hmm.
done a couple of his projects before in Rails, and then I've done that Rails tutorial as well. So I'm kind of familiar with it, and I've created like I'll show you a project I created. It's for smoke signals. Well, I'll just show you this one. You guys have heard of 1 month, right? You've heard of 1 month Don?
No,
yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah, there's a site called 1 month, and that is where you can, the concept is, work on something for a month.
Okay, yes.
And so my first project was actually this, which was a Pinterest site. The only downside, from my perspective, when I've gone on Unicast, when I've gone on 1 month, um, you go on there and you do this for a whole month, and then afterwards you're like, what the hell did I just do? So you, it's kind of like you're learning, but then you're kind of not learning. It's weird. It's weird. Now with Free Code Camp, I actually feel like I'm learning because it's like asking me to create something, and I have to create it all from scratch. So in that sense, it's kind of pushing me. The challenges are pushing me to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and learning takes a long process. But if you actually want to create something that is nice and doesn't take very long, and you kind of get introduced to it, then and maybe you're already familiar with programming. This would be Code Camp. I actually feel like I'm learning because what happened? I don't know what happened. He's like
Sorry.
lagging behind like a minute. He's lagging a minute behind.
No,
Bring
But
out
I
burger.
was on my phone and I was trying to look up the event because I was going to see if I could like still be in the event, but on my phone, but I can't, and it started playing the YouTube live event thing, and it was still like you talking. We're still trying to figure out the whole Google Hangouts thing.
so yeah, that's my experience with Rails, and I've only recently I liked Rails when I was using it. I've gone away from it because I'm doing Free Code Camp, and Free Code Camp is they give you these challenges. When you're done with them, then they connect you with a nonprofit to then build your portfolio. And so that's kind of more of a more realistic goal as opposed to maybe just creating these sites, which they look good and they're nice, but personally I didn't really grasp the material. I created something nice with a lot of their help, but I didn't really grasp what was going on. So for myself, I know that I need to start at the bottom and gradually build up so that I actually know what I'm doing and not just, making stuff with people's help. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, are you only just are you a developer or designer at all, like, or?
No, no background. Um, I've mostly worked in education,
Mm-hmm.
um, but now in the evenings and sometimes during the daytime, whenever I can get time, I do these different challenges on Free Code Camp. Maybe I'll watch a video here and there, but mostly just trying to challenge myself um, with the challenges on Free Code Camp. So
Are you a developer, Matt?
I'm consider myself a developer, but as far as like creating projects with a company or something like that, I haven't done that yet. Like I said, I'm trying to work for a company that does do this kind of stuff, and that's what I want to start using for my um, building my portfolio. I've actually I've had like 6 different websites, but just like Adam has said, like it's all been like with the help of a bunch of other people, and I just want to make it my own. So I've actually been working on that. Adam's seen like a little mock-up of what it's gonna look like. I'm so excited for it. It's gonna be awesome. But I'm also on Upwork.com, and I'm trying to get some freelance work there. But
Mm.
seems that I need to have a little bit of a portfolio and have something that showcases my skills. So that's what I'm working on, and that's what I want my portfolio website to be: is something that tells you about me, but also showcases my skills. So it's gonna have a lot of JavaScript and Jade and HTML and fun stuff like that.
Mm.
So what
Very
about
good.
you?
I code for fun.
Awesome.
And, but well, a while back I'm quite familiar with PHP, although that was going back to sort of version 4.7 or something like that, and I haven't
Hmm.
done anything. Um, I just sort of started again and sort of updated myself on PHP a bit, but um, I just decided I would like to learn something new,
Yeah.
and I'm not very good at design, so I would rather do the back end
Yeah.
stuff, and that's why I was looking at Ruby and Rails just. But I'm not a developer or anything else. I've built plenty of websites, but that was quite a number of years ago. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, Ruby is perfect. It's awesome. I can't wait to start doing that because I want to be a full stack. I feel like I have a pretty good eye for design, but I don't want to do design. As far as like the front end part goes, like it's great and everything, and it's cool when you come up with great solutions. But really, in the front end, you're doing a lot of the same things over and over and over again, as far as CSS and stuff goes. But I do still want to be a part of that, because I
mm,
feel that like when you are a part of the front end and the back end, you can create things that are,
you can,
just work in harmony.
yeah. Mm.
cool.
So, quick
So,
question.
question?
Yeah.
You have one?
Other than yeah, I have one. Other than the crazy Wi-Fi slash internet connection issues, what what did I do that was good? What did I do that was eh? And what can I do to make that better?
I would have liked to see you go into index.php and just code something up really quick.
Okay.
Just a sample, like just a header, a footer, and then give it like some CSS style, so then I can see the theme in within the CMS,
Okay.
in the WordPress CMS. That's what I would have liked to see,
Okay.
which I know you can do. So I'd like to
Yeah.
see that in action.
I
Yeah.
thought you did pretty good, Matt.
Yeah,
Um,
I like
um,
Thank you.
the overall. I like the introduction to just like these things that I'm not familiar with. So like any kind of exposure to like these different things are helpful. Like
Yeah.
mhm.
going forward, because you never know like who you're gonna run into. They may be like, oh yeah, I want to use WordPress. They'll be like, okay, I am somewhat familiar with that. I can help you out.
Yeah. And a cool thing too, like you were saying earlier, like you totally thought it was more complicated than what it actually is.
Mhm.
And I thought the same thing. I'm gonna be honest. Like when I started learning this stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. It's gonna be terrible. WordPress is just a big monster that I can't conquer, and it was a bit of headache and stuff getting it started, but it became a lot easier. Once you start doing something and familiarizing yourself with it, you kind of start to get the big picture. So.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and then like there's so much stuff that you can do with WordPress. I mean, it's crazy. Um, eh, like when we were looking in the default themes, there's so many files, tons and tons and tons of files.
Mhm.
And I think the only reason that I actually didn't go into just showing that part that you were asking about is probably just because I'm not really comfortable with PHP yet. Um, I don't know what to, I do know that like what it does is it pulls from the database and it pulls that information into it. I just don't know the lingo. I don't know the syntax or anything like that. I do know like when you're pulling up the title, you do like blog info parenthesis blah 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 close parenthesis and close your PHP. They call it dropping in and out of PHP, which is cool, but I don't know. I'm not very good at it yet, so.
I always, I mean, I'm okay with PHP, but um, I couldn't program anything in WordPress.
I think
It's a different beast.
I think
Yeah.
I think from how you're describing it, you're essentially gonna be doing the same thing in Rails.
Mm,
Pulling information from the database. It's just that how they do theirs is, it's a less than sign, then a percent,
hmm
and then the other part of it is you actually have to set up the controller so that you can actually access the model and the data
Right.
for that page.
That's the bit
So
I can. That's the bit I'm trying to get my head around, this MCV thing or MVC or whatever you call
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That thing's crazy. That's what somebody was telling me. They're like, yeah, you need to get that down. Once you get that
Aye.
down, everything's gonna be smooth sailing.
Yeah, the model view controller. So basically, when you create your pages, you're not going to give every page, like one page may need to have access to the database, but another page may not. So you write into the controller what types of methods that you want to have available on that page. And a method can also be a function. So what functionality do you want to have on that page?
hmm
So the functionality may be that, okay, I want this page to, when I hit submit, then I want the submission to go to the database and then to be stored. Well, there's a lot of processes involved in that. Not only are you telling the controller, which then tells the views and then tells the model how to behave, you're also making a request to the server to post. That's one of the protocols in HTTP, which is you have post,
Get.
um, get, delete. So you want this message to then post onto the server, so then that information can then be retrieved again from the server, and then so that you can see it on the web page. There's just a lot of processes going on at once.
Mhm.
And like I said, when I was doing these other tutorials, it's like, man, what I created this, but I'm like, I hardly even know anything about MVC now. But like I said, you just have to kind of
Mhm.
do small projects, and then over time, you kind of see like what's going on. You just have to do more.
Yeah, you get the hang of it.
Yeah, keep doing projects, keep doing projects, and it'll start to make sense of what's going on. And
Mm.
for me, it's like kind of kicking in, but still, I need to do a few more projects for it to really stick.
I like how Freed Code Camp puts it, and they're just like, just do a little bit of code every single day.
Yeah, yeah, just do a little bit of coding every day. I think what they're saying is just build a habit, build a good habit,
Yeah.
and that it's that dedication, that commitment will turn into something eventually. The more the more you keep at it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. WordPress is still a monster to me. I guess the PHP part of
you'll
it,
get
but
it. You'll get it.
yeah,
I think from what I see, it doesn't function the same way that Rails does. Doesn't function the same way that Node.js does.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's been around forever.
the reason for that is because from looking at the database, it's literally like everything is set in the database. So like for example, you have the like you said, the blog post title. That's given a unique ID. So then with PHP, you can go in and retrieve that, using the ID or the database, however you do it in PHP, you can retrieve that. But when you create sites with Rails, not everything like, you know, you're creating the database, you're creating the schema, but not other things like from what I saw, I guess like
Mhm.
from the database, you had like your email and your password and stuff like that. Like that, you wouldn't typically be saving
Uh,
in your database.
you can actually build yeah, a very good flashy site with WordPress without knowing any PHP.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You don't need to know the language because, as Matt was saying, you've got your themes that'll set up your CSS and all. You've got plugins that you can stick a contact form on and things like that. And I mean, it's literally push a button and add them.
Hmm.
You
yeah. They
actually
have a
don't,
lot of yeah,
unless you want to customize WordPress, you don't even need PHP at all.
Yeah.
yeah. I definitely agree. And they have plugins for everything. They have plugins for a shopping cart and checking out and all that stuff. Yeah.
Now. In
Hmm.
fact, it would go so far
Oh,
as to say that the only time you'd need PHP is if you want to write your own theme or write your own plugins.
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. You can do everything.
Mm.
I just want to. I guess Adam, I just want to show you really quick the database.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Just show you like everything that I added to it. So like here's the dev tips, the one that I was using, the database,
Can't see
and
it.
like no, where's it at?
All I see is a picture of you.
Can you see now?
Not yet. It may take a
Oh,
little.
present everybody. Sorry. How now?
Nope.
What? Oh, let's try this again.
Okay, got it.
Oh, it's gone.
Oh,
Let
you
me,
left it.
let me try this again. Present to everybody.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So back over here, and you have the database here. So click
Hmm.
on that, and here are all the tables. So you've got the users, which the only one is me, and there's the password, big crazy password.
Yeah.
And then you can go back up into here,
Oh, so it's
and
already creating, essentially already creating your database.
yeah, and then
It's
remember the
actually, these
what?
are what would be considered models in Ruby on Rails.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you have the user model, you have the comments model, and you kind of hardwire it yourself as far as like how these different models and databases interact with each other.
Yeah, and so then you can yeah, and then you
It's
can see here
little
like all
bit
the different
more
things.
flexible. Um, yeah, it's a little bit more flexible for. So yeah, I mean PHP. I mean essentially is doing the same thing as what Rails does, and these other frameworks.
Yeah, this stuff is crazy though because I've actually built a VBA application before, um, and like building the database and like it's crazy. Um, it was cool, really cool seeing that whenever I first figured that out about WordPress, since I had already built a database before. But it was a local database, and I honestly couldn't tell you how I did it, but I linked every single computer in the business to the database to where it could do all this stuff, and that was fun. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's probably the first time I ever dealt with a database.
Okay. Yeah, man, just do what I did when I first started was I don't know, it just depends on your interest, but I did a lot of like big projects. So like Ruby on
Yeah.
Rails. And now that I've done all of those, now I'm kind of like building projects from scratch,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm going to be doing. Well, that's what I've been doing on Free Code Camp, and then towards the end, I start building like full web-based applications that I'm going to push to something like Heroku or CodeShip or something like that to host. Um, so yeah, it's I don't know. I guess it helps to get that overview. I felt like I learned. Actually, I'll say this. I feel like I learned more about design than I did about the actual framework. So
You
Oh,
learn
and
more about.
Ruby.
yeah, yeah, with like unicast and like even with like 1 month because the layout, you get these very, like the Mackenzie, he has a way of laying out his sites. He has a type of style, and I became like accustomed to that style, and then it just kind of helps for you to know like where to put things, how things need to look. And I felt like I learned maybe more of that than I actually learned about the back end and what's happening and what's going on and what it all means and why am I here, things like that. So it's kind of yeah, I mean that's been my experience. If you really want to learn, you do have to kind of hardwire it from the ground up and gradually do more and more challenging projects. But
Yeah.
but if not, just do something. Do something. Just do
Do it or
something.
don't it.
I didn't know about this free code camp, so I'm going to have a look at that tomorrow.
Yeah, take a look. The beginning will be HTML and CSS, and then you'll get into JavaScript. Um,
Yeah, you actually use Code Academy or something like that.
yeah, well, actually, the new version, I think they went away from Code Academy and they created
Oh.
all their exercises themselves. Yeah,
Oh, so they literally just switched it like the other day.
yeah, I think it was Monday,
Oh, wow.
either Monday or this past weekend. Um, so yeah, they just changed it. So I kind of see a couple benefits to it. One is obviously you're learning like all these new things. Some of them are old, but depending on how much you know, you get reintroduced to these things. And then the other thing is just being familiar with JavaScript, which is to me has always been like maybe the scariest language looking at.
It is for me as well.
Yeah, and it kind of like, you know, going doing these exercises kind of demystifies it. Doesn't make it any easier, that's for sure. But it kind of demystifies JavaScript, and then at the same time opens you up to what programming ultimately is in the back end, which is problem solving. So you learn, you get, tested with how to problem solve and logically how to think through a problem to its conclusion. And maybe at first you're not as efficient with what you're doing, but what they're trying to do is not only teach you, but then tell you like, well, hopefully learn over time like how to make your code more precise and
Mm.
things like that. So
One of the things that I think's holding me back quite a bit is um, because I learned PHP quite early on, there wasn't great support for object orientation on it.
Yeah.
So all my coding was all done, functional just or I didn't use OOP at all, and I'm still struggling actually to get my head around it.
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, object-oriented programming. is essentially,
Please don't mention bicycles or cars.
yeah, how you want something to behave and
Mm.
what behavior you give to that object.
There's a
So
great
yeah,
book on that
for
finally.
example, let's say you have a car, and the car will be um, the object. So then, what do you and in Ruby they call this a class. So
Mm.
you have the car class or the car object. Now, what do you want that object to do? Well, I want it to move, and I want it to stop, I want it to slow down, and I want it to speed up. So you build in that functionality into that object, so then that object is able to do that. Now, when you create another object, like a bicycle, then you also will want some of the same functionality. Um, like maybe you wanted to speed up, and slow down and stop. But let's say for a car, you also want to like roll the windows down or something like that. Well,
Mm.
you can still pull in some of that functionality from the car, but you can also give it its own behavior as well. So maybe a bike is not a good example. Maybe a van.
Yeah, I did. I've sort of been. I started off looking back about 6 months ago on with PHP, um, and I did some programming on it I did some coding just to get my head around it, and it's starting to make sense. There's still bits of it that I can't get my head around, but um, and that's one of the reasons why I went on to Ruby and Rails as well, because it's sort of OP from the bottom up rather than PHP just kind of added on.
Hmm.
But I'll get
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. No, I think when I first started, yeah, I was like, "What the heck is object-oriented programming?" And they would explain it, and like it still wouldn't make sense. I think it's their examples. I don't know what it is, but I think the reason why it doesn't always make sense is because you don't see how it works on a web page.
Yeah,
They give you these examples, and they have nothing to do maybe with the real world. And so you're like, okay, you did that, but I can't apply it to anything, like in real life right now. And so if we're going to think about object-oriented programming, let's say that, well, okay, so we have like a user. Let's say we have a user model in a Rails project. That can be considered an object, um, for different reasons, that relate not just to the database and the model, but also relate to the controller, because the controller is going to give the pages and the model the functionality. So I don't think I'm explaining it very well just because I'm not as familiar with all the moving parts, but just think of it as just think of it if you're thinking about like yourself, like say you're the program. You're the entire program. So what can you actually do? Well, I can move my arms, I can move my legs, I can move my fingers. Um, and so you kind of split apart. Well, I'm the class, and then all my limbs are the objects. So basically, for a website, there's all of these moving parts. So you have the views, you have the model, and you have the controller. So you have these moving parts. Now you have to figure out like what you want these moving parts to do and how they're going to interact with each other. So like for a human, you know, the muscles like help my arm move back and forth. That functionality is already in there. Like in a computer and in a web page, that functionality is not there. You have to create that functionality. You have to create that interaction, between the bicep and the tricep, telling it what to do and how it's going to, you know, play off of one another. So I think that may be a better explanation as to what's going on. I think the difficulty is all the moving parts, figuring out how all the moving parts work with each other.
There's a
Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say there's a cool book, and I put a link to it in the chat. But
Yeah, I'm just looking at it here.
yeah, it's a book that I actually have at my house, and like that's just their website that they use, and you actually can code with the book and stuff like that. But they have a great example that talks about that kind of tries to explain object-oriented programming, and it talks about how you have a hotel object and you have a car object, and with the car object they have different methods than a hotel object, and the car objects have like speed up and slow down as their methods, and then the hotel you have, you know, check in a guest, check out a guest, you have check how many rooms there are, you have check how many rooms are free total and stuff like that, and it really goes into it, and it just kind of explains what this is, and it when you're reading the book it puts it in the notation like the way that you actually write JavaScript, but it's not telling you, oh, this is how you write JavaScript. It's just putting in that notation, so then when you see it later it's like, oh, I see, so this is the object, this is the method, these are the arguments that go into it, and and it's pretty cool. I really like that book, and they do tons of pictures and tons of illustrations. That I'm a visual person, kind of, sort of, like when I read stuff, but it's very, very, very good book. Definitely worth the buy.
I might look into that now because I need to learn JavaScript anyway, and jQuery, so that'll be a good start.
Yeah, and he leads into jQuery really well, really, really smooth transition. And then what I use that book for now is just kind of like, if I can't remember a method, I remember what I need to do and what it sort of is, but I need to go back and check. I definitely go back and look at that. So
yeah, next 2 weeks from now we're going to be using Jade and CoffeeScript. I'm going to be using
CoffeeScript is so cool.
pretty much the Jade, the Jade for JavaScript. So
what's CoffeeScript?
It's
the new JavaScript. That's what I call it.
it's the preprocessor for JavaScript.
Right.
You know how Jade and Stylus or Sass preprocesses those languages, HTML and CSS. It does that. So basically, it takes out the semicolons and the brackets, curly braces, and does a few other things. I mean, it does it in a way that makes sense. So it makes it more legible, I guess, or more readable. But that's what we'll be learning.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I've looked into it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool, I want to learn it. And then I'm like, but I still need to get JavaScript and jQuery and stuff like that down.
Yeah, I suggest
but I did
doing a little bit of JavaScript. But with this, you'll get introduced to it.
Yeah, I was watching a Gulp video, and a guy was using the Gulp CoffeeScript thing, and it was cool, because yeah, it's just awesome. And he minified everything, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna write some CoffeeScript." And I was like, "That is so easy. That makes so much more sense than JavaScript." Like,
yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Could you learn it? Could you use it without learning JavaScript? No.
I think you could, but it might be better.
Kind of like HTML and CSS. It's like you probably should learn the foundation, just because then because these are just preprocessors. A browser is only going to render HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so it kind of helps to know like what it actually looks like in its final form, as opposed to maybe kind of cutting before that and saying, I'm just going to learn how it is here, and then I'm not going to worry about how it turns out,
I knew the answer to that question before I asked it, but
yeah.
I was hoping somebody would say, no, you don't have to learn JavaScript.
Yeah.
Well, my computer is at 6%, so I'm actually gonna have to stop the broadcast and get off of here.
You're gonna
but
have to stop, or it's gonna stop you no matter what.
it'll just stop recording, and then you
Yeah.
guys can stay in.
Well,
I'm
before you go out, just a reminder. I guess you want to put it up on YouTube as soon as you can before your computer dies. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's actually already in YouTube, and then I'll put it in a playlist and then send it to Travis, and he'll put it in his playlist so people can watch.
Okay. Cool. 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 Good convo.
yeah,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah.
Good.
Thanks, Don, for staying in here. It was
Yeah,
No,
awesome.
no, no.
sticking it through.
I'm gonna go now anyway. Right now it's 1 a.m. here, so it's bedtime.
Oh
Oh.
man, you're a trooper.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed it. Now it was a great show, Matt, and
Thank
good to
you.
get to you as well, Adam.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. So, all right.
So
See you
we'll meet,
guys.
we'll meet again in 2 weeks.
Yep. Yep. See you in a
Sounds
couple
good.
weeks, and we will learn API,
Happy days.
what it is, and what the hell to do with it. Okay.
All right.
Bye, guys.
All
Cheers.
right. See ya.